There are seasons in life when the loudest voices are not speaking truth, they are simply repeating what they believe they have seen. A single rumor begins with one conversation, then quietly moves from one home to another, from one street to the next, until an entire town begins believing a story that was never complete. Smiles become whispers. Whispers become assumptions. Assumptions become judgments. And before anyone realizes what has happened, an innocent heart finds itself carrying the weight of words it never deserved. But there comes a moment when heaven steps into a story that people believed they had already finished writing. There comes a moment when God refuses to allow lies, misunderstandings, or cruel opinions to have the final word. If this message has found you today, stay until the very end, because what is about to unfold will completely change the way this story is understood. Your person has watched these events unfold with a heavy heart. At first, they believed the whispers would disappear as quickly as they arrived. They convinced themselves that people would eventually grow tired of repeating the same story and move on with their lives. But instead of fading away, the conversations became louder. Every passing day seemed to bring another opinion, another assumption, another voice claiming to know the truth while knowing only a small piece of the story. It was painful to witness. Not because people were asking questions, but because so few people were searching for understanding. They accepted appearances without seeking wisdom. They believed rumors without seeking truth. They formed conclusions without knowing the journey that had led to this very moment. Your person noticed something that few others recognized. The daughter at the center of every conversation was not reacting with anger. She was not trying to defend herself before every critic. She was not running from the whispers following her name. Instead, she carried herself with a quiet strength that confused everyone watching. Some mistook her silence for weakness. Others believed it was proof that every rumor must be true. But your person saw something completely different. They saw someone choosing peace instead of endless arguments. Someone refusing to allow other people's opinions to determine her identity. Someone placing her confidence in God instead of public approval. That quiet confidence became impossible to ignore. Night after night, your person found themselves praying for clarity. Not because they wanted everyone proven wrong, but because they believed every hidden truth deserves the opportunity to stand in the light. They prayed that hearts would soften before judgments became permanent. They prayed that compassion would speak louder than gossip. Most of all, they prayed that God would protect an innocent heart from becoming crushed beneath words that should never have been spoken. As those prayers continued, something unusual began happening. Small details that everyone had overlooked slowly started coming into view. Conversations that once seemed convincing no longer sounded complete. People who had spoken with absolute certainty suddenly became uncertain themselves. Questions that had never been asked before quietly began surfacing. How did this story begin? Who actually witnessed what everyone keeps repeating? How much of it is truth? And how much is simply assumption? Those questions spread just as quickly as the original rumors. For the first time, the town stopped talking about her. They started questioning the story itself. Your person quietly watched this shift take place. They realized that truth rarely needs to shout. It simply waits. Patiently. Confidently. knowing that every lie eventually collapses beneath its own weight. As this realization settled into their heart, another understanding followed close behind. Perhaps God had allowed the whispers to continue for a season, not to shame anyone, but to reveal something hidden inside every heart. Some people revealed compassion. Others revealed pride. Some chose patience. Others chose judgment before seeking understanding. The story had become much bigger than one daughter. It had become a mirror reflecting the hearts of everyone involved. Your person could now see what heaven had been quietly revealing all along. This was never merely about public opinion. It was about character. About integrity. About remaining faithful when your reputation is questioned by people who know nothing about your private journey. The daughter continued walking forward one day at a time. She still greeted people with kindness. She still refused to answer cruelty with bitterness. She still believed that God saw what human eyes could not. Many wondered how she remained so calm. They assumed she simply didn't understand what everyone was saying. But they were wrong. She heard far more than people realized. She felt every whisper. She noticed every glance. She understood every conversation that suddenly became quiet as she walked by. Yet deep inside her heart lived a peace that no rumor could steal. Not because the situation was easy, but because she believed that God never abandons those who choose truth over revenge. That quiet faith became stronger every single day. And while the town continued speaking, heaven was quietly preparing something no one expected. A moment was drawing closer. A moment when hidden facts would finally begin replacing assumptions. A moment when those who had spoken too quickly would suddenly find themselves standing before a truth they never imagined. Because someone who had remained completely silent until now, was finally preparing to speak. And the words they were about to reveal would change everything the town thought it knew. The silence of that unknown voice lasted only for a little while, yet somehow it felt as though an entire lifetime was passing before anyone spoke. Your person could sense that something significant was about to happen. The atmosphere had changed. The same people who had once spoken with complete confidence were suddenly choosing their words more carefully. Those who had eagerly repeated every rumor now seemed strangely uncomfortable whenever the subject returned. It was as though the story they had built together had begun developing cracks that no one knew how to repair. Your person noticed these changes immediately. Not because they were searching for reasons to prove anyone wrong, but because truth has a quiet way of changing the atmosphere long before it changes people's opinions. For weeks, everyone believed they already knew the ending. They believed they understood the daughter. They believed they understood her choices. They believed they understood her journey. Yet not one of them had ever paused long enough to ask what she herself had been carrying through all those silent days. They saw her smile. They never saw her prayers. They saw her composure. They never saw the tears she cried when no one else was watching. They saw the rumors. They never saw the courage it took to wake up every morning and continue walking with grace despite becoming the subject of endless conversations. Your person often wondered how someone could remain so gentle while surrounded by so much misunderstanding. The answer slowly became clear. Her peace did not come from people's approval. It came from trusting that God already knew the complete story. There were evenings when she quietly sat alone, opening her heart before God instead of opening arguments before people. She never asked for revenge. She never prayed that those speaking against her would experience the same pain she was feeling. Instead, her prayer remained remarkably simple. Lord, let truth arrive at the right time. That prayer became her strength. Every sunrise reminded her that another day had passed. Every sunset reminded her that God had not forgotten. Even though nothing appeared to be changing on the outside, something extraordinary was happening beneath the surface. Hearts were beginning to soften. Questions were beginning to replace accusations. People who once laughed without hesitation now found themselves wondering whether they had judged too quickly. Then something unexpected happened. One ordinary afternoon, a conversation that was never meant to be overheard reached the ears of someone who had remained completely uninvolved until that moment. It wasn't a dramatic confession. It wasn't an emotional confrontation. It was simply one honest sentence spoken without realizing how much it would change everything. That sentence spread quietly. Not like gossip, but like truth. People who heard it didn't rush to repeat it. Instead, they became thoughtful. Because for the very first time, the story everyone believed began falling apart. Your person watched this unfold with amazement. The confidence of those spreading rumors slowly disappeared. The certainty that once filled every conversation became hesitation. Some quietly admitted they had never actually known the full story. Others realized they had accepted assumptions simply because everyone else had accepted them too. It became painfully obvious how easily a lie can travel when people stop asking questions. But it also became beautifully clear that one moment of truth can accomplish what thousands of false words never could. As this transformation continued, your person recognized something even deeper. God had never been in a hurry. If the truth had appeared too early, hearts might never have been ready to receive it. If everything had been explained immediately, people would have missed the lesson hidden within the waiting. Sometimes heaven allows time to reveal what arguments never can. Sometimes silence becomes the classroom where wisdom quietly grows. Looking back now, your person understood why every attempt to defend the daughter would have failed in the beginning. People were not ready to listen. They had already chosen what they wanted to believe. Only time. Only patience. Only God's perfect timing could prepare their hearts for what was about to be revealed. And now, that appointed moment was finally arriving. One by one, hidden details started coming into the light. Not enough to satisfy curiosity, but enough to awaken conscience. Enough to make people question their own words. Enough to remind an entire town that judging someone without knowing their full story carries consequences far greater than anyone imagines. Then your person realized something they would never forget. The greatest miracle was not that the daughter's name would eventually be cleared. The greatest miracle was that she never allowed bitterness to take root while she was waiting. She protected her heart even when others attacked her reputation. She chose faith when fear would have been easier. She chose grace when anger would have been understandable. And heaven had been watching every single moment. Now the final chapter was drawing near. Not a chapter of humiliation. Not a chapter of revenge. but a chapter of restoration. Because the voice that had remained silent was finally ready to reveal the complete truth. And once those words were spoken, the entire town would realize they had been laughing at someone whose story they never truly understood. The moment everyone had unknowingly been moving toward was finally within reach. Your person could feel it before a single word was spoken. The atmosphere that had once been filled with confident opinions now carried an unusual stillness. It was the kind of silence that appears when people begin questioning their own certainty. The laughter that had once echoed so freely was slowly disappearing, replaced by quiet reflection. No one was saying much anymore, because deep inside they sensed that something important was about to come into the light. Then the truth began revealing itself. Not through anger. Not through public arguments. Not through someone demanding revenge. It came through quiet honesty. One conversation led to another. Questions that had remained unanswered for weeks finally received clear explanations. Pieces of the story that had been scattered across countless assumptions suddenly fit together with remarkable clarity. What everyone believed had happened was only a small fragment of a much larger picture. Your person watched as faces began to change. Some lowered their eyes. Some became speechless. Others quietly admitted they had accepted rumors without ever searching for the truth. The very people who had once laughed the loudest now realized they had been laughing at someone they never truly understood. That realization carried more weight than any argument ever could. No accusation was necessary. No one needed to point fingers. Truth was doing what truth has always done. It was speaking for itself. As the complete story unfolded, everyone finally understood something they had completely overlooked. The daughter had never been pretending to be strong. She was strong. Every smile had been genuine faith. Every peaceful response had been an act of incredible courage. Every day she walked through the town without bitterness became another testimony of quiet strength that no rumor could ever destroy. Your person realized that while people had been measuring her by public opinion, God had been measuring her by the condition of her heart. And there was an enormous difference between the two. Human judgment focuses on appearances. God looks far deeper. He sees the tears no one else notices. He hears the prayers whispered behind closed doors. He understands the battles fought in silence when nobody is watching. My beloved child, never believe that the opinions of people determine your value. There will always be voices that misunderstand your journey because they have only witnessed one page of a story that God Himself is still writing. Do not spend your life trying to satisfy every critic or silence every rumor. If you chase every opinion, you will lose sight of the purpose I have placed before you. Remain faithful. Remain kind. Remain patient. Because truth never loses its power simply because people refuse to recognize it for a season. Many become discouraged when they are misunderstood. Many give up when others speak against them. Many allow bitterness to replace compassion. But I am calling you to walk a different path. Walk with integrity when no one applauds you. Walk with humility when others misjudge you. Walk with faith even when your circumstances seem unfair. For I see every hidden act of obedience, every quiet prayer, every tear that falls in secret, and every moment you choose peace instead of revenge. Your person now understands that the greatest victory was never proving everyone wrong. The greatest victory was protecting a pure heart while waiting for my perfect timing. That is a victory no rumor can ever take away. As the days continued, something beautiful happened throughout the town. People became slower to judge. They became quicker to listen. Many who had once repeated careless words quietly began offering kindness instead. Not because someone forced them, but because truth had awakened something inside their hearts. The daughter never celebrated their embarrassment. She never reminded them of their mistakes. Instead, she offered the same grace she had prayed to receive. And in that moment, everyone witnessed something far greater than the ending of a rumor. They witnessed the power of forgiveness. They witnessed the beauty of humility. They witnessed what God can do when someone refuses to allow pain to harden their heart. So if today you find yourself carrying the weight of misunderstanding, remember this. You do not need to fear the whispers surrounding your name. You do not need to fight every opinion spoken against you. Continue walking in truth. Continue trusting God's timing. Continue believing that what He has spoken over your life is stronger than anything the world may say. Because when God decides that the time has come, no lie can stand against His truth, no rumor can overcome His purpose, and no voice can silence the destiny He has prepared for those who faithfully trust Him. Thank you for staying until the very end of this message. May your heart remain full of peace, your spirit remain anchored in faith, and may you always remember that God's truth has a way of shining brighter than every shadow, every rumor, and every misunderstanding. When His light appears, darkness has no choice but to step aside, and what was hidden in confusion will always be revealed with perfect clarity in His perfect time.